Just a quick reminder that I'm not online today, so you cannot access me for support, I'm afraid. I am in school with my tutor group, so I'm afraid I can't help you out, so you're just going to have to do your best. I've got confidence and faith that you will be able to work out what we are doing today. So just to recap what we did last lesson. So we're talking about taking statistics from the frequency tables like the one you can see here. So remember, we can calculate the mode. So remember, mode is most common. So here we've got Lily visits an arcade while on holiday. She plays 100 games and wins tickets that she can exchange for prizes. What was the most common number of tickets she won? Well, that would be 2, because that has got the highest frequency. So she got 2 tickets 28 times. So the mode is 2. The median, so that's the middle value. So remember, we use that little trick of saying, well, I need to take the number of values and add 1 and then halve it. And that tells me the value I need to find. So 101 divided by 2 is 50.5. So I need to find the 50.5th value, which sounds very strange, but we basically need to identify where the 50th and the 51st value are, and then they should normally be in the same group. So these are values 1 and 2, the first and second values. That's going to be 3 up to 13. Then we're going to have the 14th value up to the 41st value in here, and then the 42nd value up to the 59th value in there. So that's where the median would be, because the 50th and the 51st value are in there. So the median in this case is 3. That was quite a fiddly one to work out. I don't think they'll give you that tough a one to work out in an exam, because it's quite an issue there. It's quite tedious trying to find out where those values are. Right, the range. So the most she won, any one goes 8. The minimum she won was 0. So the range is 8 tickets. And finally the mean. So remember, for the mean, we have to add this extra column in. And in here, I'm going to do the number of tickets that she won, and I'm going to multiply that by the frequency. So, for example, twice she won 0 tickets, so in total there she won 0 out of those 2 events. 11 times she won 1 ticket, 11 times 1 is 11. 28 times she won 2 tickets, so that's 56 out of here. And I follow and fill up the rest of that column, just like that. I work out that total, 338 by my reckoning. And remember how we found out the mean of a set of values. We add them all up, so that's me adding them all up, if you like. And I divide that by how many there are, and there are 100 values in total, and I get a mean of 3.38 for that. And I'm just going to have a check of that data. Yeah, that feels roughly about right. Yeah, I've got quite a few values which get quite high, and yes, that roughly having the mean around there feels about correct to me. Right, so that is in a frequency table. We now need to look at when we have a grouped frequency table, which is what we looked at a few lessons ago. So this is a grouped frequency table. Can you please make sure you write down everything that's on the page at the moment as we go? So when we are dealing with grouped frequency tables, we have to amend these methods slightly. Now, can you think why? So pause the video and just have a think. Well, the problem is we don't know what any of the actual values are. So we've got 100 students who sat a physics exam, and the time they spent revising is shown in the table. So I know that 27 of the students spent 0 to 5 hours, but I've got no idea what exactly those 27 values are. It could be that all 27 spent 5 hours. It could be all 27 spent 1 hour. The likelihood is they're going to be spread out in there, so I could have 2 that spent an hour, 7 that spent an hour and a half, but I don't know exactly what those values are, and I probably can't find out. So we cannot, for example, use the mode because we don't know which value appears the most. There could be no modes at all. All right. So let's take a look at each of the statistics we took from the original frequency tables and see how they change when we're dealing with grouped frequency instead. So let's go for the first one. When we had a frequency table, a bit like that last one, we were able to quite easily work out the mode. And like I've just said, we cannot work that out here because we don't know what those actual values are. So rather than finding the mode, we can find the modal class. So those bits of vocabulary are very similar. Even if you didn't know that, perhaps you could have had a guess. So in this case, the modal class would be 5 to 10. So if I wanted that in an exam, I would say 5. I would literally just write down exactly what's written there. That one. That is a class with the most values in. Next. So we had the median. It's quite a fiddly one to work out. I prefer working out the mean, to be honest. But the median was another one we worked out. So again, we cannot work that out because we don't know where all these values are. So rather than working out the median, all we can do is state the class containing the median. Okay, so that's all we're going to do. And much the same, we do this a similar way as before. So there are 100 students, so we're looking for, we add one and halve it, so we want to know where the 50.5th term is, or the 50th and the 51st really, and without too much hassle I can see that they're going to be in there. So it's actually going to be the same as the modal class in this instance. So the next one we were able to calculate with a frequency table with the range. Again, for the exact same reasons, we cannot do that with these tables. We don't know what the maximum and the minimum values are. Okay, it could be that the maximum was 20 and the minimum was 0. However, it could be that the maximum was kind of like 15.5 and the lowest was 4. We just don't know. So rather than knowing the range, all we can give is an estimate of the range. Okay, and actually that's not too difficult to calculate. That is the largest value in a class minus the smallest. And all I mean by that is I take the largest value that it could possibly be, which is 20, and I take away the lowest it could possibly be, which is basically 0 in this case, and I get 20. So it's not too different really, that one either. Finally, rather being able to work out the mean, which I could work out exactly before, I can't do that with this either. I can only calculate an estimate of the mean, and we're going to come on to that a little bit later. So they're not too dissimilar, the differences between the frequency table and the grouped frequency table, but we have to know mainly that a lot of them we can't calculate, or we can't calculate any of them really exactly, because we do not have the information of what the values taken down were. Okay, so can you please for me, on the next slide, there are 2 examples. You don't have to copy them out, but for each of them I want you to calculate the modal class, the class that contains the median, and an estimate of the range for the time being. So pause the video and just work those out for these 2 tables. Right, so let's go through each of these. The modal class on this first one, which class contains the most? It is 30 to 40. Which class contains the median? Well, in total, there are 80 heights. There were 80 plants measured. So we can always find out how many there were just by adding up the frequencies. So the class containing the medium, so there are 80 values, so add 1 and halve it. I'm looking for the 40.5th value, so I need to find out where the 40th and the 41st terms are. And I can see without too much hassle, you're going to have the first 10 are going to be the first two, the first 22 are in the first three, and then the 40th and the 41st are going to be in the same as the modal class, for 30 to 40. And an estimate of the range, the highest class value it could possibly be is 50, the minimum it could possibly be is 0, so I have my estimate of the range is 50. For these other ones, the modal class, which class has got the most in? It is 68 to 72. Being very careful with my inequality symbols. How many were there? So let's add up those total frequencies to find out how many rugby players were surveyed. And there are 100 people surveyed. So again, it always seems to be in the middle between two at the moment. So 100 plus 1 over 2. So I'm looking for the 50.5th term. So again, I want to know where the 50th term is. And the 51st term is, well, that's the first 10. That's the first 30. And then we suddenly jump to 60. So the median has to be in this one. So it's in the same one, but again, it's not always going to be. Don't get lulled into that security. So 68 to 72. And an estimate of the range, the highest it could possibly be is 84. Lowest it could possibly be is 60. So the range is 24. Please be aware, and this is a mistake that people made in the last lesson, if, for example, this frequency up here had at the top had been 0, then what is the minimum that anyone could have weighed? Well, the minimum anyone could have weighed, because I've not got anyone in that class, would have been 64. So if that had been the table instead, I would have done 84 takes 64. Just because this value is in the table does not always mean that it's the lowest possible value. If this frequency was 0, it means there's nobody in that class, so the minimum anything could be would be 64. So it's just another little note to take on. So that's it for this video. So I'd like you to now watch the second video, which is all about calculating that estimate of the mean from a grouped frequency table.